Welcome to the Nexus Unloaded podcast. This is Will Crozier.
And I'm Mikki Will. We are the founders of Nexus Performance. Joining us on this wild ride is our heavyweight coaching team, ready to unleash their expertise to solve any problems in your journey to getting strong and jacked.
Through our real-world experience, we hope to break things down in a digestible, applicable, and entertaining way.
So pump up the volume and let's get into this.
Welcome back to the Nexus Unloaded podcast. Here for another episode. This time it's just me and Mikki, and we are talking through some training and nutrition, athlete management stuff today.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get into that,
we have some updates.
Some general updates. We haven't mentioned them in a few episodes. If you are on the Nexus Melbourne wait list, you will be getting updates.
Mm-hmm.
If you're on the Instagram page, following the Instagram page, you'll be getting updates. But we have some updates for everybody else who isn't in the meantime. So last time we had like a general area that we
that from your face a little
had
bit.
With like a general area that we had
announced
within. That we did with Geordie and a bit of like personal introductions there. And then
since then, a lot has happened.
Yeah, we've had, a lot of developments. First things first is just the really annoying side of it, which is the whole like lease negotiations, signing, drawn out crap that is.
Or the documentation.
Yeah, or that little council stuff, whatever. And that has been done. So that has been done. We are locked in. We cannot run away now.
We've officially signed a lease.
Which, it's a little bit scary in some ways, but, because there's no one in there yet. There's no one training and there's no one paying a gym membership, so it's just all out at the moment, but that's all right. We are a little bit used to that by now. But, yeah, we've signed the lease for our Brunswick East location. Shout out to all the sneaky sort of people who found it on the internet.
I think you were getting messages or something.
Yeah, I had a fair few messages from people going like, "Is this the building?" sort of thing. And it's I guess like I kind of don't mind that at all because it shows that people are excited and there's a bit of a hype behind it. And if you're one of those people that is willing to go and search through real estate listings and find it,
I think it just shows their enthusiasm and their excitement about coming in.
You'll find out eventually anyway. So, that's awesome that people are a bit excited about it.
I would just want to preface it. The reason why we obviously haven't announced the location, the exact address yet, is that I don't want people to judge it based on its current conditions. Like it's been vacant for
it's a little sad,
nearly a year now. And in Brunswick, obviously, everyone is a street artist as well. So
we don't need any free flow Nexus signage being put on there for us. The signage actually has been organised. One of the updates that has been organised. We've got some signage going on obviously on the outside for everybody
driving by
or tramming by to see. We've got signage on the inside organised.
Keeping true to our Nexus branding.
Yep. We've also got the painting organised.
I feel like Honza needs a special shout out for that.
Honza deserves several shout outs for sure, for multiple reasons. But a true lover of powerlifting, a member of our Gold Coast gym, painted our Gold Coast gym, and just long-term beloved OG member. He's actually going to head down to Melbourne.
Flying him down to Melbourne to paint this facility. Yeah,
special guest superstar painter. He can now, I guess, put in his resume that he's been requested around the country to paint facilities.
I was going to say he could put out there Australia's strongest painter, but I also have to give a special shout out to Mr. Joseph Whitaker, who is actually helping us out with materials and equipment and stuff like that for Honza to paint. So I could
collab.
I could say Australia's strongest painter, but unfortunately,
there's a lot of strong painters.
I think Mr. Whitaker wins that one.
Yeah, painting might be the the strongest job out there.
I can tell you now, it's not my cup of tea.
Argue with the truckies or something. but yeah, painting's been organised and ready to go. It'll be in our standard colours across the gyms, and we'll be looking as aesthetic as the other gyms. Be doing our best to level it up again. Equipment has, for the most part, been organised. It just needs a bit of loving touch, a few more pieces to get our hands on.
And then we've got to ship everything down.
Yeah, there's stuff here, there's stuff in New South Wales, there's stuff still being made overseas, and America and Canada and stuff that is being shipped and will hopefully all arrive on time. There may be a couple pieces that might be delayed because we've been through this enough to know that shit just gets delayed.
I know that our prime stuff is not going to be there until a very long time. Yep, that's
send
fine.
them angry emails.
Yeah, everyone send prime angry emails.
Yeah,
I'll give you our invoice number.
I'm sure that'll speed them up, definitely. Not just make them hate us.
And then the last thing as well is the construction side of things too. So shout out to Jason Stupers from Hustler for hooking us up with a few contractors that helped him out with his amazing facility out there at Mount Waverley. We have got some construction stuff that's going to be commencing over the next little while too. So
yeah, it's
lots happening.
It's being opened up into a bigger space that's a little bit more comp ready and a little bit more conducive to community building. Same as the other gyms. So there is one more point here that I had which was just like the floor planning. Like we've started on. I know you and Geordie have had extensive chats about the floor planning side of it. So it's another big thing that people just don't see because people just think you just get this shit, you just chuck it in there.
There needs to be flow.
But there are things you don't consider, there needs to be, a little bit of flow.
When we
I always say you can tell, I can always walk into a commercial space that has been built, or an investor has made it. I've trained in gyms where the owner was like a lawyer, and you can definitely tell that it wasn't made by a lifter. They're just things are just why is that there? It's kind of annoying to get between these two things that are usually used together, or whatever it is, or in our case where we have specialized things for more hypertrophy body sort of people, and for the strength athletes and stuff, just making it a little bit easier for them to navigate between them. And the other big thing that people don't consider is comps. Yeah. So we will be running comps, hopefully really big comps, hopefully amazing comps, with lots and lots of people. And that's another thing to consider because typically you want a lot of floor space for people, which means moving stuff. And then if you put machines that weigh 500 kilos
plus,
just out of order and stuff like that, and when it comes to the comp days, moving them is just it's already a big job, but it's just it becomes a humongous annoying job. Yeah. That but whereas if you set it up right, I find it makes it a lot easier on the day for both competitors and for us on the back end.
Yeah, definitely making sure the warm up room has got space for everyone and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So things that we'll be figuring out very, very soon at our Gold Coast gym here at the first event that we've ever run will be happening as well on the 3rd of May. So that'll be an interesting thing for us to see just how well, I suppose, my designs went with that floor plan and what we can do to ensure that for future comps it's easier and better again for both us and athletes.
The gym's been electric lately with people, especially that 2 to 4 or 5 week out mark where everybody's
hitting heavies.
Yeah, running through walls and screaming and loving it, just, hitting PBs, hitting big weights, spotting each other,
It's just good fun.
Yeah. Not to give Melbourne all the love. The Gold Coast guys have got that going at the moment, which has been such a blessing to be around.
Yeah, and Townsville obviously had their comps up there and they're moving into NQ Strongest now. So the powerlifting side had their fun and now the strongman guys will start to
I suppose, move into their spotlight zone too.
A lot of coordination.
So, yeah. Running multiple gyms, it's fun. And then the last thing as well, for those who are on our expression of interest form, you will be getting an email very, very soon with more updates that we haven't necessarily gone into detail with here. But an important thing to note is that if you are not on that expression of interest form, go to the show notes in this podcast episode and fill out the form, because for those who love what they're hearing so far and want to be a part of it, we are going to be releasing early bird memberships at the start of June with some special exclusive options and things like that.
Deals, giveaways.
All that sort of stuff. But we are, of course, having a limited run on that. So if you are interested, please go to that link, fill out your contact details, and early bird memberships will be going out at the start of June. Very cool. All right, so let's get into the main stuff that we had today, which was, like you kind of mentioned there, aligning training and nutrition. So we have a case study here of an athlete that you and I have both worked with. And so we kind of wanted to talk a little bit about what it's like for the both of us to be handling the same athlete and how that works. So
within Nexus, we have multiple nutrition coaches, multiple coaches, and it's very, very common for us to be to have people that do both.
Yes,
it's
encouraged.
Absolutely, yeah. The most everybody knows, like how deeply it might differ from person to person, but everybody knows that training outcomes are dictated not from just how much effort you put in the gym. That's a big one. It's how smart the training's laid out, but it's also to do with the stuff that you're doing outside of the gym. So the training, the eating, the sleeping, the stress management, of which a couple of those fall into both the categories of the strength coach on my side of the fence and or the nutrition coach on your side of the fence, or our other coaches.
Yeah, definitely.
So we have a bunch of people that are super dedicated to chasing their best.
Yeah.
That do both, and one of which is like the person we're talking about today, which is John. So John is just like I said, one of many examples, but a recent example, a person that's in the thick of it right now, who's gone through a couple of comps recently. And is heading into more comps soon, and has gone through. And the reason we use John is because he's gone through a couple of different phases as well, with different sort of obstacles, different considerations on both sides of the fence. And so it's just a good example of what that collaboration looks like and how it comes together.
Yeah, and I think it's just really important as well to emphasize, like, one of the things that we're really big on at Nexus, and the reason why, like, you don't do nutrition as part of your programming is because you believe that, or we believe that, in order for someone to get the best experience, like having a coach that kind of specializes in each of those fields, like you are, a really good programming coach. And I know you've expressed a few times that, like, coaching nutrition is not necessarily something that you're overly passionate about, but you're obviously what you're talking about and you know what you're doing, but it's not something you want to do. So often you'll find, like, the programming will be highly prioritized and the nutrition maybe not as much, or vice versa for the athlete. Whereas
it's just from my personal experience in the past, and this isn't from any taking aim at any particular coaches or whatever, but when I did bodybuilding, rightly so, the nutrition was very prioritized in the services, and even though, like, a program was included in the service, often it was kind of a little bit, I don't know, just like less thought about, or less feedback. Things like, you get a program, but like things like technique sort of, really just wasn't on the menu as much. And that's tough. That's fine. It got me a long way. It got me to the bodybuilding stage. It got me, all I wanted at that time. And then in powerlifting, a similar thing, but reversed.
Yeah.
And again, it's not at anybody, but like, I've noticed a lot of instances of of coaches that say they do both. However, it's quite obvious that, you know, one is the priority and then the other's like, just eat your veggies or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, it's like kind of nutritional guidance is the word that's used a lot of the time.
But you're still paying a premium price for both.
Yeah, which is fine. But the way we do it, the way we've always done it right from the very start, because of that experience, is to have the jobs, separated a little bit, so that there's two different people overlooking different aspects, and then make sure that everything is ticked off. But they obviously have a lot of overlap. Training affects nutrition, nutrition affects training, and they have to be on the same page to be getting the most out of the situation.
Definitely.
Which is why, from a team perspective, we have to be working together. So, like, I have to be working with all of our nutrition coaches a lot of the time, and vice versa.
Yeah.
With John, I obviously do his programming and strength coaching, and as well as some of that other stuff, the stress management, the just longer term planning, and then you're taking the reins on the nutrition side, and some of that other stuff as well, and then collaborating them into the best possible plan between us.
Yeah, definitely. So let's go into the phases that John has kind of been through over the course of our time working with him, more like over the last sort of 6 to 8 months, I suppose, we want to talk about. The first one is obviously coming into Christmas Cup, where he competed in the under 125 category. This was also his first ever powerlifting competition too. So it was a really big thing for him to come in and just have a bloody good day, enjoy himself. We originally were going to do the under 110 weight class, but he decided with some travel and some things beforehand just to do the 125s and show up and have fun.
When it's your first comp and you're traveling across the country, and it's a little there's a couple. Sometimes it's just like it's simplicity is the best way, and then as you get higher and higher, well, pretty much always is the best way at the start, and then as you get higher and higher, and you start to compete at a higher and higher level against other people that are ticking all the little boxes as well. You really need to tick all those little boxes to, like for me, like in some of the, like when I went overseas, or when I had to go down to Pro Raw and compete on a 2-hour weigh-in and all that sort of stuff, it could just be, there's just a lot more little considerations to make.
Yeah.
So we took the approach of going in the 125s for that.
Yep.
I don't think he wasn't a real 125. He was a me 125, which was like 115.
115, 116 or something like that, after having some social events and a bit of fun and all that sort of stuff too. So he was in a really good spot just to show up and have a damn good day. And that's what Christmas Cup was all about for us. Obviously you handle him. I'm pretty sure he went 9 for 9 on the day. PB'd all his lifts, competed in the sleeve category there. And just really composed himself like a professional athlete, in my opinion. And you were obviously very impressed by someone that this is his first sanctioned meet, and he was just very relaxed. He was calm. He was composed.
Composure sometimes takes a little bit to work out. Like obviously in your first comp, every comp you're going to be nervous, but in your first comp you can get very nervous and can let little things get to you. But and some people take a few comps to sort of work out what works for them.
Yeah.
Like in our previous episode with Alex, we were talking about lifter psychology and, people that like to get hyped versus like to stay calm and the pros and cons of those and just how different people react to different situations. And like I said, you can take a few comps or a few goes at it to really get that right sometimes, which is totally fine. But John really nailed it from the start. And was super composed on the day, held it together during his tough lifts and during the pressure situations and the next planned comp that we had was APL Nationals, which at that point would have been well over half a year away, which is a long time to wait between comps for when you're relatively new to competing. Like there are some specific skills on the day of competing that it's just good to get a couple reps in, and just be used to the process a little bit more and be used to like even the training process leading up and the few weeks of peaking or whatever it is you want to call it. So I said to him, let's be real. The fitness industry is flooded with coaching programs, all using the same buzzwords: comprehensive, tailored, individualized, super confusing. What does that actually mean for you? At Nexus Performance, we cut through the shit. We take the time to actually understand your struggles, what drives you, what's holding you back, and then we coach you through it. With our online strength coaching, you're not getting a templated program. Your training program is built around you. You're also going to be getting one-on-one consult calls, Loom video feedback, direct messaging for coaching cues and questions, so you know exactly what to do and how to do it. If that sounds like the support that you've been looking for, let's make it happen. Visit our website today for weekly or monthly programming support. Let's maybe take aim at Pro Raw, which was pretty much like going straight back into prep.
Yep.
Just again, for more like just leveling up as a competitor as opposed to an athlete or a human. And just like learn some of the ins and outs of competing a little and just get more reps in a comp situation.
Yeah.
I thought that would be a really good opportunity, and obviously a comp like Pro Raw as well. Most people are like of a higher level, and it's just a good chance to see that in action and perhaps learn from other people. So that's what we did, but it did require a few changes to training, to nutrition. So Pro Raw is a 2-hour weigh-in as opposed to a 24-hour weigh-in.
Yeah, obviously, as we mentioned there, John was a little over the 115, 116 sort of range coming into that Christmas Cup. So we had to move from that weight class down into the under 110s. Bowser's finished chewing on his toy. Into the under 110s, and being a 2-hour weigh-in as well was a really big thing that we had to kind of navigate our way around for him, because the Christmas Cup was a 24-hour weigh-in. So he had
a little less pressure.
Yeah, exactly. And I know he was very nervous as well, like just mentally making weight and weight cuts and the impacts that might have on performance, because he's never experienced any of it before. And I know it was just like coming out of Christmas Cup and going, okay, well, Pro Raw's on the agenda now. Let's just tighten things up with your nutrition. Let's drop a couple of kilos. Let's just prime the body so that you're in a really good position for the remainder of your prep and you don't have any stress of major weight cuts coming into it. So, 6 kilo weight cut for a guy of John's size is probably not too stressful.
When you say weight cut, you mean like losing weight, not so much like a weight cut in terms of what people.
No, well, I mean, like if he wanted to be 115 a week out from comp, we could have done that, because obviously that is what you've done in the past. But he didn't want to do that. He didn't have the confidence to lose and do a weight cut like that. So
100% on a 2-hour weigh-in.
Yeah,
it's tough.
Yeah, definitely.
And I can definitely speak from experience and tell you that it absolutely impacts performance.
Yeah.
So essentially, it already was a quick turnaround comp-wise.
Yep.
And then became adding that stress in as well. You're going to go into a deficit to lose that weight, a nutritional deficit, calorie deficit. So that's going to create
some fatigue, systemic sort of
stress. Just less recovery, so you can apply less sort of stimulus overall. There's less, the more workload you put in and recover from, in a sense, the more you're going to get out of it, and that's very nuanced in another conversation. I don't mean more volume, but anyway, just more like training dose, I call it. And when you are in a compromised recovery position, whether it's a nutrition deficit, whether it's a sickness, whether it's lots of different things, it means that your training dose has to be managed a little bit more tightly.
Yep.
And so that's where our collaboration came in on it, as in you're having to go into a deficit to lose this weight and be comfortable by comp, and make sure that we didn't have a big weight cut on our hands on a 2-hour weigh-in, because that's just super stressful, especially when you're traveling from across the country. So, hey, let's get there early. But it means with training, we're going to pull back the amount of work that we're doing overall, and to how much that is just a little bit difficult to say, but like, there's going to be some reduction in it and a little bit more of a watching of recovery metrics of things like, how sleep is, how beat up he's feeling, how the joints are feeling, how the numbers are progressing, how, just generally how fast things are moving, like lots of little things like that we're going to be watching a little bit more closely. To make sure that we're not pushing too hard, because like I said, there's no exact formula how much you should reduce training or anything like
definitely. That. So in the first 4 to 6 weeks post-comp, post-Christmas Cup, we dropped, I believe, 3 to 4 kilos. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. And that got him down sitting between 111, 112 before you kind of got into more of the intense peaking phase of the prep. And then the goal was essentially just to maintain that for the back end of prep, because a 1 or 2 kilo weight drop, like that's pretty damn comfortable to do. And he was comfortable to do that. So that was essentially our position, was like, let's get within a nice tighter frame, which we accomplished. And then obviously you were able to help him out with the everything else with the programming and stuff moving in throughout the process. So there's a couple of things that we did with his nutrition as well, just to help with any sort of like appetite, hunger sort of things. So we played around with having some more volume introduced in his diet, obviously a lot more sort of nutrients, phytochemicals and stuff like that, to really avoid any sickness throughout prep, because obviously, fatigue and all that sort of stuff was a little bit overloaded. We wanted to minimize any risks for him getting sick. I know John also really tightened in the reins with any social eating and eating out and stuff like that as well. So he didn't have too much like manipulation, like fluctuations in his weight as well. But we tried to incorporate a little bit of freedom for him with like some homemade pizza dishes and stuff like that as well, just to try and keep it somewhat enjoyable for him. But I mean, we've talked about this before, like some of the sacrifices that you have to make throughout a prep anyways.
That's why this was a good comp. Like I said, it was a slightly higher level comp, and this next comp will be definitely higher level, as in APL Nats. So it's just really hard for people that haven't played sport or anything before. This is a general statement, but not just a John statement, but just like for anybody who hasn't done that sort of stuff before, it's really hard to, like, it's next to impossible just to like dial in everything 100% and like just do, be super consistent with every single little part of it. And people will probably be like, oh, that's, I'm pretty consistent. No, I'm talking like ticking all the boxes, like all the little things. Really hard to do for a decent amount of time. So having a comp like this to sort of like
practice that,
pull in the reins just a little bit, and then in the next comp, it's kind of like, all right, let's step this up again. Let's get even more nitty gritty and deal with all the little things. Another thing that I remember we had to do a little bit on this front was just expectation management. Like, we are going into a 2-hour weigh-in. We are having to lose weight and be a lighter body weight for the competition. We are having to do half the prep in a deficit. We are, stepping into a high pressure situation. We are learning reps between these two. There's a lot going on. So like, the program, I feel like if we didn't do all that and we just continued and APL Nats was the next one or whatever, but in a similar time frame, like we didn't have to make any changes on the other side of things. We were able to push training harder. There would have been bigger numbers on the platform. But that's not to say that it's, it's not 100% about the numbers. There's progression being made in other ways. Right. Like whenever something has to be pulled back or limited because of a situation like this, you can't just go like, oh, well, like, oh, I'll be happy if just maintaining, and like there has to be some expectations depending on how much effort you're putting in. But if you're really dedicated to the cause, you can always find ways forward. Like now, looking at the prep, that he just did. And coming into this one, it's like, okay, now we're a bit leaner.
Mhm.
The health metrics are a little bit nicer or whatever. There's roads to progression that are a very indirect way, but there are a way that have been made
Yeah.
kind of to the sides that are going to benefit him in this prep that may not have shown in the numbers of last prep.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
it's
definitely.
has been made like even just the comp experience thing I said. So, like it's a long-term vision. And that's another thing that we do together from a collaboration standpoint is, having a longer term planner together and looking at ways forward when the usual ways forward are limited to some degree.
Like I specifically remember him after Pro Raw being like, I'm finding it difficult to step into that like fourth gear again after just finishing the last prep. And it's like, well, you don't have to be in the fourth gear right now. Like you've just finished a prep. It's okay that we have a little bit of freedom and enjoyment and stuff like that, so that when you get time for that next peak, like we're good to go there. So let's get into kind of what we're doing now with his APL Nationals prep. Obviously, he's got a lot of room.
The 20 weeks, well over 20 weeks, whatever the week, but a long time. 24-hour wean, qualified in the 125s back in that comp that we were talking about. So he's in the 125s for this, so has that room to go with body weight. So there's just less pressure, just more freedom to do like what we want and tick all the boxes necessary to move forward. Like things like being in a surplus and which led to more muscle gain, which leads to more muscle gain. Just wasn't possible in the last prep, but now it is. And because he lost a little bit of body fat and went down a weight class, more insulin sensitivity and the other things that come, the other benefits that come with being a little bit leaner. So like I said, it's kind of set up for this one. And I really expect to see a little bit of a slingshot effect from it. We've changed things again. Like we've had another comp. The good thing about doing comps, and like I said earlier, from an athlete perspective, it's like just getting good at the day. There's those benefits that he 100% learnt at Pro Raw, but there's benefits from my side about going through multiple preps as well. Like was able to look at our training data and look at things that worked really well and things that didn't work as well, make a lot of notes on them, have our post-comp little debrief chat and come up with ways forward for each of the lifts. So for him specifically, off the top of my head, experimenting with sumo, which has gone really well so far. But as we know, like sumo can be a little bit odd in the way, like when you first go over to it as compared to like what it's going to be at a 1RM. So, but things are looking really, really good as we expected they would be. The bench press, pretty much a close grip bench presser before. I remember the guy before him had like the bench on 2 or 3 pins up from the bottom, the classic big arch wide grip.
And then it went like,
and then John's one was like, I felt bad for him because I had to pull it up like 6 pins with 200 kilos on there. So like,
John also has got longer arms and stuff as well.
For sure. But although we could just stick on that path and continue to gain, I'm sure. I think just moving things, just changing techniques slightly to be a more efficient bench is going to be the right call. And so far is proving that way, or at least looking that way. We've got a long time, and we can and because we've got a long time, we can introduce a little bit slower and not take risks as well, which is fantastic. So. Doing those comps when you're starting out can teach you a lot about the athlete side and what works and what doesn't work so much as well.
Yeah, definitely. And it's the same thing with the nutrition as well. Like we've found certain foods that he enjoys more than others and things that his appetite across the day, how he can manage that sort of stuff a little bit better. So there's a lot of different things from a nutrition perspective that helping people through with comps and weight cuts and all that sort of stuff can really, really teach me. But obviously, as we mentioned, now we're moving into a calorie surplus. His weight is very nicely moving up. It's not a big push for us because obviously
you don't have to be 125.
No,
I mean ideally you'd be you'd be a lean 125, but that is fucking huge.
That's 15 kilos of weight gain over this.
It's a lot of chicken.
Over 20 weeks. So yeah, essentially the plan will be to get him pretty close to sort of that 115 sort of mark, a nice lean sort of shape. Obviously, in my opinion, he was probably one of the more leaner, aesthetic looking guys at Pro Raw, visual abs and stuff.
Don't say no. You are ugly and everyone hates you, John.
So I'm very, very proud of that, the package that we brought to the day. And it's just a matter of not allowing complacency or him to get lazy or anything like that, moving into this next prep, even though we've got 15 kilogram window of weight to move with. So Bowser's decided to jump in on the podcast with us today now. So yeah, that's where we're going. Obviously allowing him some freedom with food choices, to keep things enjoyable moving forward as well. Like obviously with the training he's enjoying, I believe he wanted big juicy titties or something like that was
Who doesn't?
That he put in his check-in as well. And so giving him the enjoyment in his training to keep things fun so he doesn't have like mental and physical burnout, but then also with the nutrition side of things, he's got a little bit of breathing room to be able to do that whilst keep things, tight and in control. So I'm really looking forward to this next prep with him, and then also helping him out with, the 24-hour weigh-in, rehydration process, comp day food choices, how this comp is going to run, whether it's going to be a fast comp or a slower, more dragged out comp. Those are all details that are yet to be released as to exactly the flight orders and how it's being run. So it'll be really interesting to see how he handles the speed of the day as well. And that's another thing that, like comp things, as a coach, you learn to manage a little bit differently as well.
There is a strongman comp on the day, so we might do a Kate Mitchell and go and do like strongman
powerlifting
the day after.
Arm wrestling. Didn't
there
Kate
is
want to do?
Yeah, I think Kate did.
She wanted to do
we haven't
three.
ever mentioned Kate on the podcast, and a lot of people maybe don't know Kate these days, but Kate Mitchell,
she's from New Zealand.
Was a New Zealand athlete that I coached who is honestly one of the most gifted people I've ever worked with, just an absolute animal. And she at Arnold's, so at the Arnold's Sports Festival, it was ran over multiple days, three days.
2019 or 2018 or something like that.
Oh, she did it a couple of times. And then we would do Pro Raw on the Friday.
Yep.
And then the strongman comp would be held, like the women's strongman comp would be held the next day at Pro Raw at Arnold's.
Yep.
So she jumped in, did Pro Raw, like won it, had a mass day. Everybody who competed that day is completely fucked. But somehow she jumps in the strongman, kills that as well. Jumped in, did some arm wrestling as well, all on the same weekend, and high level competitions all round.
Yeah.
She's also a pro bodybuilder, coached her to her pro card in IFBB, which is my only pro card, but the only one I want. So
physique pro.
So absolute just fucking animal. So did unplanned shout out, but absolutely.
We're not planting any scenes for John though, because he did just sporadically throw out the strongman comp.
Don't
so
do that.
we're not doing that.
Nah, Kate, you can't keep up with Kate, mate. She's a beast.
Cool. Well, so is there anything else? Obviously, you mentioned he's doing some sumo on that, but he is going back to sleeves now. So is there anything from the sleeved wrap transition with the squat stuff that you guys are working on there?
Not really. It was just, again, understanding in the last prep, like there's the skill aspect of learning wraps, but also just like the demands that wraps bring. So like you're going to add a minimum probably, of 5% training loads to your squat, which just impacted, the total plan a little bit, just, as well as the deficit. So there was a few things to manage there, and it was just a bit of an odd prep. But he ended up killing it.
Yeah.
The only thing that didn't go 100% to plan at Pro Raw was the deadlift.
Yeah.
Just the deadlift was a little bit harder. But like I said, the squat loads throughout the prep, the deficit, the losing, like there was a few things kind of working maybe against deadlifts making a whole lot of progress.
Mm.
And I'm really not worried about that because I think this comp's going to absolutely fucking destroy that number.
Yeah.
We'll open on that number, sort of thing. So,
Like
I said, it's about long term. It's about understanding the situation, understanding and acknowledging expectations. The whys of what's happening. Why we should expect a lot of progress. Why we maybe should expect a little bit slower progress. Understand how that applies to the big picture. And understanding from both of our perspectives, from the nutrition and the training perspectives of what can be done better to make things move forward. And but at the end of the day, we're still all learning along the way, and so like it's a big collaborative process between both of us, John himself, and not only that, the people around him in his life as well. It's not a sort of closed circuit thing. It's another thing that we haven't mentioned in the long term plan that we have the training stuff in the plan, we have the nutritional stuff in the plan, and like how that's meant to come together. We also have like health, physical and mental health, and like like I said, you can't be 100% switched on all the time, otherwise you just go insane. So there's like planned life events in it, and navigating all that, and
and that's kind of the phase that he's in now. Like it's like have some enjoyment, live a little bit, but not go too wild. And then maybe after nationals, if he wants to go and have a holiday or something like that, we can throw around those sort of things, travel or whatever other stuff he's got on his agenda with Coco. So cool.
Yeah, but if anybody out there is feel like you have got your training or your nutrition sorted and feel like you're missing an aspect of progression and you want to be the best, then we can help you fill the gaps.
Yep.
So more than happy to collaborate on these things and make it work in a full systemic way.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. All right. Thank you very much. We'll see you on the next one.